What's up, Mr. Brandon Dunsing? Tell me a little bit about what you do for CIO Group.
I am the Chief Financial Officer of this amazing company. Had an opportunity to work with CI Web Group for a little bit over a year now. And my primary role is understanding how the business operates, both financially and operationally, really helping to refine our practices and our process and drive us to bigger and better profitability and greater and more amazing sales.
So I know you've had a lot of opportunities to be able to visit with different contractors about how to create, manage, grow, build their budgets from a marketing standpoint with some amazing predictive analysis based on our historical data. Tell me a little bit about the process. Where do they start? So a lot of them don't even know, where do I even begin? How do I create a budget?
Yeah, no, honestly, it was really, this was probably the most fun part of my role as I came into the company was being able to sit down with the individual dealers and contractors and starting to understand the problems that they were running into on a day-to-day basis. So I'm in finance. So for me, that's all I think about. It seems intuitive. It seems like something that it just goes hand in hand with walking and talking basically. But when you look at an average business owner, it is typically one of the most underutilized or undermanaged components of a successful business. If you're great at selling and you're great at delivering a phenomenal service to a customer, a lot of times that covers up any gaps that you have in your business, financially speaking, structurally speaking, for a period of time. And you can get to a certain level of size just off of the ability to be a great person who understands individuals and delivers a phenomenal product. But at scale and at a certain point, you start to understand that having a few gaps, either from an operational perspective or financially speaking, really become apparent. Whether that is pricing out your equipment, understanding your gross margins, how much labor goes into running your business successfully, the cost of marketing and what that takes to grow successfully really starts to shine and become a little bit of a glaring issue that you start to uncover over time. So while finance for me was a little bit more intuitive, I started being a part of these conversations and starting to understand there was a little bit of a gap here with a lot of our contractors and dealers, and they're so excited for knowledge and they just haven't had the opportunity to really dive into it, I think, the level that they've always wanted to. We have some that are extremely sophisticated. We have some that have gone through that initial phase and really educated themselves and they're off and they're running. And then we have another subset that's really trying to learn as they go. And so we work in a full capacity to really help contractors and dealers just really understand their financials, understand what marketing expense looks like, understand what budgeting for a successful business looks like. And then we kind of bring it all together and say, okay, well, now that we helped you understand your business, financially speaking, how can we build that into a marketing model for you to make sure that working with us, you will be successful and you'll be profitable. It's very important. A lot of times you can put a lot of energy and money into marketing. It can drive traction, it can drive some traffic, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's always profitable. So for us, we like to really do more of a consultative approach with a customer, understand some really important business unit economics to make sure that what we're recommending and the strategy that we're proposing is very successful and is going to end up with the results they're really looking for.
Let's say this is a $2 million company that wants to do $4 million and they want to do that in the next 12 months. What are some of the factors that should be included in the planning process for that? How do they go about backing into a $4 million gross revenue 12 months from now?
Yeah, so great question. And we run into this all the time. That's usually how the conversation starts for us is where are you currently at and where do you want to go? And then really, how do you get there, right? How do we chart that path? And so we like to help them first work with them as a partner and understand the economy of what their business is currently doing. So we would typically start with, okay, if you want to get to 4 million, how do we do that successfully? And successfully means profitably, right? We can keep the lights on as we grow because we can always throw a lot of money at something to get you to size. We want to make sure when you get to 4 million, you still have money in the bank. You're growing healthy. You're not teetering out right at 4 million. So we want to make sure that we work with them on their business and understand first and foremost, what are your margins? What are you priced at? I think is the biggest component. A lot of people get caught is as you scale, you don't have enough profitability on the jobs and the work that you're doing to support that scale. As you grow, you're going to have more equipment, more techs, more admin staff. call center help. And there's so many things that come along with scaling.
Technology,
Technology. So you want to make sure that you're scaling appropriately. That typically starts with your gross margin. So you got sales that come in the door. How much did it cost me to produce those sales? That's your gross margin number. What am I left with to pay all the other bills, my overhead, and everyone else out there working? So we kind of really dig into their financials a little bit, kind of pull on their P&L, dig as much as we can, really help them get a good solid understanding and foundation of their financials. And then once we know that they're going to go to the market in the right capacity, then it's how do we pour more fuel on the fire? And that's really where the marketing conversation begins. So what we would do in this scenario is we would say, okay, 2 to 4, what's your average ticket size? This is a great place to start if you're looking to get more clarity on how to grow and scale appropriately. What's your average ticket size? When you get into someone's door and you close a deal and you do that over the year, what's your average? Okay, let's say, it's $2,500. That's my average ticket I close out of all my deals. That's a blend of install, service work, repair work, etc. Okay, great. What's your conversion rate when someone comes and talks to you, right? They've heard of you, they're excited, they give you a call, they fill out a form. What's your conversion rate? And there's a couple ways to break that down, and you could do a whole conversation just on that. So if you picture everything as one big funnel, you've got a lead is, first you got some traffic, whether it's traffic to your website or some other marketing channel that brought them in. Then you've got to convert that lead to what we would consider a conversion, which is a form filled or a phone call over 60 minutes, someone that's qualified. It's a real lead that came in. That's one piece of the funnel. And then they've got to be converted to a tech going out to the house. You got to show up for the appointment. Yeah, you got to book them, and then you got to show up, and then you got to close the deal. So there's a couple layers of conversion that happen there, but we would want to dig into those numbers and figure out your conversion rate. And between your average ticket and what you convert, we know how many leads you need to get you from 2 million to 4 million. And once we know how many leads you need to get you from 2 to 4, then it's just a math equation continuing to work backwards.
How much does where they're located and market size and competition play a role in the timeline to be able to make that happen, the budget that's necessary? Where all these
Yes, so nothing's in a vacuum, right? So this works. I used to work in financial industry, financial services, and everyone asked me about stock prices, and there's models that you can do asset pricing and everything like that. But in reality, we don't live in a vacuum, and different market conditions will change the outcome and the variation of your model. So what we do is we take that into consideration. So we have in a proprietary pricing model and a lead gen model, variability of geographic location. So size of market's a really big indicator of how successful we're going to be with driving leads and the amount of leads you're going to get from that investment. So we consider your location, the size of the market, the industry that you're in, all that kind of comes into what we do to help model what we think is going to be lead generation ability based on your investment. So that's a big part of it. And typically what we see is in the smaller locations, smaller geographic cities, you're typically going to get a little bit more for your money up front. You're going to be able to get to the top of Google a little bit quicker. If you're in large competitive spaces, it's going to take you a little bit more time. We're also limited a little bit by our partners. And by partners, I mean Google, one of our biggest partners. And they really control a lot of the show. So we work with them. So as they roll out new updates, we're always refining our process and our model around the parameters that they give us and really trying to find the sweet spot and make it as clean as we can. But we have to play by their rules. And so if we're in a big, large market, your ability to get on the page one of Google is not reduced because of your competitors. It just takes more time. You can only push Google so far and so fast. So with working within the boundaries of Google, we come up with a really strategic plan to pick, for instance, in SEO, we work on building pages and key phrases that will be optimized to get you traffic on a page that makes sense. So we know if we have a limited amount that we can work on at a time or a limited amount of time to work on something, we're going to go obviously after your highest return keywords, your phrases that give you your best margin on services. And then as we expand that lead net, that net that goes out there and catches those leads, we're going to give ourselves the ability to have more time to get on the first page of Google. So in larger cities, you're going to see that expand. In smaller cities, you're going to see the ability to do that even quicker.